In today's episode, we are going to be digging into that poem, embracing freedom. Embracing freedom. Freedom, freedom, freedom. This one's a really hard one for me to talk about, I'll be honest, because it has so much. There's so many dynamics within it. But there are just, there's just a lot of pain too. There's a lot of pain of the lack of freedom in which our world operates on. And it's just kind of really timely manner. I'm actually recording this. I think it's about a week past Trump's win, and we're starting to see some astronomical changes happening on a global scale. Some freedoms opening up, some freedoms being shut down, and just really starting to look to see how it's all going to play out, how that's going to transpire in people's lives. And I just think it's a great time to be recording this episode and really dig deep into not only freedom, what it means to you, how it shows up in your own world, but how it's showing up around us as well. So let's dig into it. Embracing freedom.
Hello, my sweet souls. Let's take a moment to breathe. I want to talk about a feeling that often will leave. This is a feeling that gets a lot of hype. It is constantly causing a fight. It rages battles in and out of our homes. What is it that we are fighting for? We are fighting for this feeling called freedom. Freedom is a price that we are not willing to pay. It rages wars in lands every day. In the midst of the chaos, so many souls fade away. But you see, my sweet souls, this is not what freedom wants. No, freedom wants us to feel free. Freedom questions how it created this terrible disease. Freedom questions, is it worth the battle? Is it worth the fight? Here's the thing, my sweet souls. Without our freedom, we lose all other life. We lose pleasure. We lose happiness. We lose love. And we continue to feel pain. Freedom is the ultimate thing. It brings peace from within. So I want you to remember this one important thing, my sweet souls. You have no right. You have no right to take freedom from all. You have no right. If it is freedom that someone feels that you have taken from them, then I want you to question. If you have your freedom, then why should they not? So I'm going to leave you with this one thought. Embrace your freedom, my sweet souls. Let it make you feel full. Let it consume your entire soul until it makes you feel full. Full of life, happiness, love, pain, and all the others. Now, my sweet souls, wouldn't you want your fellow souls to feel the same way? You see, freedom is not about taking what you want. No, its purpose is to teach you what you don't got. We are not here to fight and battle over this thing. No. What is theirs is theirs. What is yours is yours. Living with freedom from within is so much more. Freedom is about creating the life you desire. Freedom is about not having to worry about the others. Freedom is about making conscious decisions for oneself. Freedom is about not having to tuck your needs and desires on the shelf. It's about loving oneself more than one thought it could. It's about living out its true identity, even if others don't think it should. So, I would like you to remember this one simple rule about freedom, my dear. If taking others' freedom away is a freedom you would like, you are not free, my sweet soul. Your freedom is locked up real tight.
yeah, like I said, this one is a heavy one for me to dig into, but we're going to dig into it. And the very first few lines I want to dig into are...
Hello, my sweet souls. Let's take a moment to breathe. I want to talk about a feeling that often will leave. This is a feeling that gets a lot of hype. It is constantly causing a fight. It rages battles in and out of our homes. What is it that we are fighting for? We are fighting for this feeling called freedom.
I think let's just kind of dig into the part where I said it will leave. It's, you know, I think we maybe touched base on that at the beginning, but yeah, our freedom is constantly at a pursuit. And I don't think that it's it's by design. It's by design with the way in which our world operates. And we're seeing this on a really big scale with the elections that just happened, where it's like, here, we can either give you guys these people's freedoms or we could give you guys these people's freedoms. And so freedom always hangs in a balance for somebody. It's the fear of losing our freedom. To leave. It is constantly causing a fight, and that's really kind of speaks into what I just said. It is constant. It's a feeling. This feeling is a feeling that gets a lot of hype. It is constantly causing a fight. It rages battles in and out of our homes. What is it that we are fighting for? We are fighting for this freedom called freedom. And so just to go into the aspect of, you know, where do we fight for freedom in our homes? We fight for freedom in our homes when there's control. When we feel like we can't be ourselves. When we feel like somebody is trying to manipulate and control us into being somebody else. And a lot of the times that doesn't feel like that to them. It's just them putting their projections on who they need you to be. To fit into their perceived way of life. And so, you know, and I just want to sit with that for a minute, and I'd love for you guys to just sit with it for a minute and just think about how there's so much duality within the world that we are living in with regards to the freedom of just being yourself in this world. And how that kind of comes into relationships sometimes too. So it says, freedom is a price that we are not willing to pay. It rages wars and lands every day. In the midst of the chaos, so many souls fade away. And so, yeah, obviously these lines are really speaking into the war of the world. You know, how do we get people to fight against each other is we take away their freedom. We take away their freedom and right to be a people of this earth, basically, is what we're seeing in some capacities in this world. Take their freedom away to explore their cultures. We've seen that in the past, and now we're starting to regress and move back. And sometimes they strip away the freedom and right for other souls to exist in different forms and different capacities that we will get into as we move through this poem. But you see, my sweet souls, this is not what freedom wants.
No, freedom wants us to feel free. Freedom questions how it created this terrible disease. Freedom questions, is it worth the battle? Is it worth the fight? Here's the thing, my sweet souls. Without our freedom, we lose all other life. We lose pleasure. We lose happiness. We lose love. And we continue to feel pain. Freedom is the ultimate thing. It brings peace from within.
I think these ones are kind of hard to explain for me because they're just kind of a little bit self-explanatory as to, like, you know, freedom is a feeling. It's a feeling within you that you are at ease, that you have safety, that you are allowed to safely be yourself, that you are safe to love yourself. I think that's a big aspect of it too. You know, yeah, freedom is almost like a state of peacefulness in a sense, where it's like, I'm okay, I'm safe, this world is not out to get me, in a sense. Yeah, just being at peace with who you are and where you are. And so, and that, yeah, that's not, you know, it's not the absence of pain. Pain still exists with freedom. It's a freedom to feel that pain. And so, yes, that's where I'm going to leave those lines. So I want you to remember this one important thing, my sweet souls. You
have no right to take freedom from all. You have no right.
Oh. I mean, that one just rings so true in my heart and in just everything in my being of just, you know, that's a feminine rage coming out of me in those lines. Holy smokes. It's like, we shouldn't be taking somebody else's freedom away in any capacity. Freedom to explore thyself. We're going to get a little bit deeper into that. I have some pretty strong feelings about the transgender movement in itself and just the way things have been incorporated into our system and how we could see a positive change in a new direction for all beings, because I just think that, yeah, we'll get into that in a minute. But the next few lines that I want to get into are,
if it is freedom that someone feels that you have taken from them, then I want you to question. If you have your freedom, then why should they not? So I'm going to leave you with this one thought. Embrace your freedom, my sweet souls. Let it make you feel full. Let it consume your entire soul until it makes you feel full. Full of life, happiness, love, pain, and all the others. Now, my sweet souls, wouldn't you want your fellow souls to feel the same way?
These lines just really speak into how important it is to get centered into yourself. What do I mean by that? I mean, allow yourself the time and capacity to get into a deeper understanding of who you are and why you're choosing any direction in your life. And So yeah, it's about finding the freedom to love oneself for who they are, and just getting centered in that, and you know, and kind of me going, I just wish everybody, I remember when I was writing that, it was just like this feeling of like, I just wish everybody could feel this. I just wish everybody could feel this free the way I feel right now, a way that in which I never felt free. And I think that freedom was robbed from me because I grew up in a society that taught me that I was different, that I was strange. You see, I was that kid that didn't feel like she fit in. And I don't think I really came across that way to other souls around me. But I always felt like I was too masculine for the women and I was too feminine for the boys. I always resided somewhere in between there. I was a bit of a tomboy. I really enjoyed doing things like that, and I think that a lot of people thought I was actually pretty cool for that reason. But I always had a hard time fitting in. And it was because I carried these two essences within my beingness that radiated a different understanding of the world around me. And I had a hard time speaking into that to either group because I just was never really looking to fit in. I always was meant to stand out. And that was very hard growing up. That was very hard as a young person. But now looking back on who I am today, I couldn't be prouder of who I am. And I'm okay with standing out. I'm okay with not fitting in. But I've always had this like calling deep within me that I was just supposed to love thyself for who I was. You know, I'd have two really girly sisters that would like dress up, and I remember my oldest sister especially, she really liked to do the hair and, you know, do things for us girls, and a lot of the time I would push her away. It would create distance in that relationship, and it was only because I had this deep calling that I just needed to love myself for who I was. And so yeah, just coming back to the lines in the poem and then just to wrap this section up, that feeling of having the freedom to be who you are sometimes doesn't come till later on in life, and that's okay too. The next few lines are,
You see, freedom is not about taking what you want. No, its purpose is to teach you what you don't got.
huh. This is such a full meaning for just like a short verse, what you don't got. Like, freedom is about teaching what you don't got. Really is. Like, freedom is like a pull in your heart. It's like, no, this isn't it. Like, this is, nope, I'm not settling for this, you know? And it can range from like so many big, you know, from something that is catastrophic, like war, you know, losing family members, losing life, you know, freedom is basically teaching them that they don't have safety of homeland, they don't have safety of being a free people on this earth. And then, you know, we go into the freedom to just be yourself. And so yeah, there's, you know, this inside feeling, I think, in one of those, it's both an inside feeling, it's just a knowing that, hey, I deserve more than this, I I know that there needs to be something in place to protect the fact that I should have this freedom. And so, yeah, I mean, we see people fighting in all kinds of forms, you know, for this. And I think I'm kind of mumbling a little bit on this one, but yeah, it's just such a deep and heavy meaning to that one. It's to teach you what you don't got. And so you'll even see in that video I used an image of a woman trying to lean in and like get her man's attention, and he's clearly, his energy is saying, you know, fuck off. And I almost see that as like a sense of control, right? Like, we need to learn in relationship when our energy is being controlling or not. And yeah, it's these minor things that we see in society that if you're not paying attention, you'll miss, or, you know, aspects of control and freedom. So yeah, anyway, the next few lines are,
We are not here to fight and battle over this thing. No. What is theirs, what is yours. Living with freedom from within is so much more.
you know, that feeling of freedom from within is the freedom of knowing. It's a freedom of knowing what you want, knowing that you're not going to beg, knowing that, you know, I'd almost say begging is like a form of control in a sense. Just knowing that you're okay being you, I think, is the biggest thing. And yeah, just knowing you're free to be and see yourself. That's a really hard one to say, because a lot of people are scared to see themselves, scared to look at themselves in the mirror fully, scared to witness the shadows amongst the crowd of characters we all play in this life. And the reality is, when you start to see all those shadows, you start to find forgiveness for oneself. And so, yeah, that's kind of a deep meaning, a deeper stretch into those few lines of, you know, we're not here to fight and battle over this thing. What is theirs, what is yours. Living with freedom from within is so much more. And so it's just about, like, really surrendering to what other people are going to do, what other people are going to say, how are they going to behave, how are they going to act, what are they going to say or do, and just know that yeah, they're entitled to their own way of being and seeing this world. And all we're here to do is witness them. Woo! Okay.
Freedom is about creating the life you desire. Freedom is about not having to worry about the others. Freedom is about making conscious decisions for oneself. Freedom is about not having to tuck your needs and desires on the shelf. It's about loving oneself more than one thought it could. It's about living out its true identity, even if others don't think it should.
I actually want to go through this one, like, kind of one by one, because it's just so, got so many meanings here. So, freedom is about creating the life you desire. Yes, freedom is about creating the life you desire in all forms. It's about being able to make the money that you want to make. It's about being able to live the lifestyle that you want to live. It's about creating the circle of energy that you want around you. It is about choosing the people you have in your space. It is about being yourself. It's about having a homeland. It's different for everybody, Obviously, this is, privileged white woman talking who has never seen the amount of destruction that has gone down on indigenous cultures and just people of color in general, honestly. So, but yeah, it's different for everybody. It is most certainly different for everybody. Freedom is about not having to worry about the others. Yeah, it's just not having to worry about what other people are going to think. And, I think in this sense, we worry about what other people are going to think, but it's not up to us to help them understand us. Sometimes we're all just so looking to be understood, and the people that we need to go to be understood by are the ones that are just like us. And so it's not about people understanding us, it's just about being accepted and having an acceptance and an okayness with who we all are. Freedom is about making conscious decisions for oneself. I think this is actually a really important line in this poem because, I kind of want to bring it into, some politics into this line with regards to what is happening out in the world with the transgender movement. One particular aspect of it that has personally bothered me is the infringement on parental rights, especially here in Canada, to have changes done to a child's body at a very young age where a parent's decision could be overridden. And I think this line plays into a really important aspect of freedom, is I think that we have to have conscious awareness of ourselves and our surroundings before we can actually make a decision that large. Do I feel like there has been conditioning happening in this society? Yes, I do. And I want to speak into that a little bit. I think that with the public school system, first actually I want to preface this by saying that my kid was in private school last year, and now I've transitioned him into the public school system. And from my experience, and what I've been watching and what I've seen, I've followed this whole topic fairly closely over the last few years. But, and what I know to be true about the mind, all of these aspects of my beingness, my greater understanding of how the mind works, and how I've watched things play out, I do think that there has been an aspect of conditioning for sure that has happened. And so that's, I don't think that we should be stepping forward and telling parents that they should not have a choice as a parent, in a very self-detrimental way for your child. I think that I would absolutely be devastated if one of my children came home and was talking about a sex change. And I think this whole issue lies really close to my heart because I could see myself as being one of those confused children. You know, when I get really in touch with that little person inside of me, she was fucking confused. She didn't know what she wanted. And I didn't really come to fully understand myself until I was in my 40s. So I have a hard time understanding how making such a large life-altering decision would be in the best interest of a child that doesn't know thyself. And so, how do you find thyself? How do you come into a deeper understanding? How do you come into, what was the line in this word? A conscious understanding of thyself? Well, you take the time to separate yourself from anything that is outside of you. And that's including in a society. Take yourself out of the picture and start to introspect on oneself and figure out where your desires are coming from. When we talk about incorporating a new people into this world, and yes, I do agree that the transgender people have been absolutely horrifically treated throughout centuries in our civilization. It needs to change. But you don't bring them into school systems and parade them. These are fresh little minds we're talking about. These are kids that we are talking about educating, that we are talking about programming. Yes, it's all a program, you guys. Everything that we teach our kids, everything that we bring forward to them is an opportunity for them to be programmed, and then, down the road in adulthood, they can choose otherwise. But they don't have that capacity as a child. As a child, what we're doing is we're programming them. Yes, they may double guess things, but at the end of the day, it causes confusion. And so when we bring this idea of we got to intersect these people into our society in a capacity where we throw all of this extracurricular information into the school system about these people and how the history of how it all went down, in my opinion, is confusing the fuck out of kids. Yes, I agree that we live in a society that does not celebrate diversities. What if I could paint a picture for you of what that would look like to me, the utopia that resides in my mind? Sure. Let's bring in some more information about diversities, but let's not just focus on one crowd. Let's celebrate all diversities and let children lean into whatever direction they want to go. But this hyper-focusing on one thing most definitely can cause confusion for the mind. And so as a parent that sees that there has not been a lot of research done on transgender sex changes, not enough for myself as a parent to make a comfortable decision as to whether that would be the right decision for my child, I would be extremely cautious about making that decision. And it doesn't sit right with me that we live in a society that feels that they have the right to take that freedom of parental rights to protect my child's well-being. And this is where freedom, I think, has gotten really messy and really really hard to see, I guess, in this society. Is, yeah, kids should have their rights, but they also don't have the right to make a lot of other decisions, because we just know that their brain isn't developed enough, that they haven't matured enough, that a lot of the time these types of decisions take maturity to come to a proper realization of what it is right for them. And so I think that we should all encourage kids to have the freedom to explore who they want to be, and give them a lot of different options of what that could look like. But do I think that we should be pushing one idea of, different onto them? No. I think that is absolutely a source of programming, and you would have a hard time trying to, convince me otherwise, because I just know how the brain works, and I know how we tend to get programmed into one way of thinking when we are obsessing as a society over one concept. So I think we have a long ways to go with incorporating the transgender community into the system. But do I think that the Liberal Party has pushed it too far in one direction? Absolutely. And yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens in the future here. And the next one is, freedom is about not having to tuck your needs and desires on a shelf. And I think that really just speaks, I'm not going to go too deep into this one because that last part was fairly long, but yeah, your needs and desires, I envision that for like all people, where we can just have needs and desires and have the freedom to explore them. And yeah, I think that we were definitely created to be a freer people, and that's why we always thirst for that feeling. It's about loving oneself more than one thought it could. It's about living out its true identity, even if the others don't think it should. Yeah, these two lines kind of go together. Loving oneself more than one thought it could. I have spoken a lot into that, so I'm not going to go too deep into it, but just loving yourself for who you are. And yeah, having the courage to step out and just be who you are, even despite somebody not wanting you to explore that avenue. One thing I want to say on this note is, oftentimes we'll see souls kind of lean into one direction of, okay, I'm going to explore this. And if there's like friction between you and another soul, that can often push that soul even deeper into that direction. And so I think it's always so important to keep in mind that we're allowed to explore, we're allowed to lean into new and different directions in our lives. And even if it's uncomfortable for you to see somebody leaning in that direction, I think the best thing to do is always just to witness their exploration, and see what comes out of it. Because sometimes we lean in a direction that isn't right for us to. And yeah, just allowing people to have that freedom to explore themselves, I think, is really important in this world. It's about living out its true identity, even if others don't think it should. Yeah, I mean, for the person that doesn't think it should, you should allow that person to lean into that direction, because they will often lean harder to spite you. But also, yeah, it's about fighting for your right to be who you're supposed to be, too. And we have seen that on an astronomical level in the last few years, of people just rising up and saying, we're here to stay, we've always existed, like the big thing about the transgender movement that I think a lot of people are missing is that there's always been people in that transitional space, even from a soul level. And the truth behind that is that a lot of them have been medically transitioned at birth. So intersex children are medically transitioned at birth a lot of the time within the society that we live in. And there's actually a fairly high percentage of people that come into this world in that transitional space. And so God's plan and Creator's plan was always to have people that live in that space. I resonate with the transgender people because I live in such a 50-50 state of existence myself. Do I think I'm transgender? No. Do I think that I could have easily been manipulated and programmed to believe that I could have been when I was young in today's society? Absolutely. So that's why I feel so strongly about this issue. But yeah, I think that a lot of the time we forget. Well, we just don't know in the society that there are people that actually truly do exist, that Creator has created them exactly to be just that. And, you know, I really see a lot of the policies that come out are just a war against people in that transitional space. And, you know, I have my own theories over it. One of the theories is that we live in both spaces, and we kind of have a superpower being able to feel into the masculine and feminine. And I think we do carry in some wisdom for that reason. So next few lines are,
So, I would like you to remember this one simple rule about freedom, my dear. If taking others' freedom away is a freedom you would like, you are not free, my sweet soul. Your freedom is locked up real tight.
these lines, these last few lines just really speak into the soul of they speak into your soul, they speak into the experience of just feeling free within your soul. And I'd say I really could resonate with that feeling after I left one of my ex-partners. It's just like this feeling of like being, oh, I'm free from that. There's no more control. I can just be me. I can just exist again. You know, and I would say there was like control on both aspects of that relationship, and that's something that I actually did get into, I think, control a little bit, but yeah, freedom is such a tricky one because it's really just about honoring each other and where we're at and loving each other for all of that. And honoring each other as people of this earth, having humanity for each other, and allowing everybody to just freely live, just be fucking free. Oh, and it's just like I said, I am almost in tears, in pain, finishing up this episode because it is just one of the hardest feelings to talk about. It's one of the hardest, things to talk about is how do we get to a place of freedom for all. Not just for some, but for all. Let's support that society. Let's build that society. Let's hold our politicians accountable for that society. Call me a dreamer. That's it for this episode. Thank you for joining me. And I'm looking forward to jumping into the next episode, which I believe is going to be embracing trust. So stay tuned for that. Thank you so much. Peace, love, happiness, and above all, freedom for all.
Hello, my sweet souls. Let's take a moment to breathe. I want to talk about a feeling that often will leave. This is a feeling that gets a lot of hype. It is constantly causing a fight. It rages battles in and out of our homes. What is it that we are fighting for? We are fighting for this feeling called freedom. Freedom is a price that we are not willing to pay. It rages wars in lands every day. In the midst of the chaos, so many souls fade away. But you see, my sweet souls, this is not what freedom wants. No, freedom wants us to feel free. Freedom questions how it created this terrible disease. Freedom questions, is it worth the battle? Is it worth the fight? Here's the thing, my sweet souls. Without our freedom, we lose all other life. We lose pleasure. We lose happiness. We lose love. And we continue to feel pain. Freedom is the ultimate thing. It brings peace from within. So I want you to remember this one important thing, my sweet souls. You have no right to take freedom from all. You have no right. If it is freedom that someone feels that you have taken from them, then I want you to question. If you have your freedom, then why should they not? So I'm going to leave you with this one thought. Embrace your freedom, my sweet souls. Let it make you feel full. Let it consume your entire soul until it makes you feel full. Full of life, happiness, love, pain, and all the others. Now, my sweet souls, wouldn't you want your fellow souls to feel the same way? You see, freedom is not about taking what you want. No, its purpose is to teach you what you don't got. We are not here to fight and battle over this thing. No. What is theirs is theirs. What is yours is yours. Living with freedom from within is so much more. Freedom is about creating the life you desire. Freedom is about not having to worry about the others. Freedom is about making conscious decisions for oneself. Freedom is about not having to tuck your needs and desires on the shelf. It's about loving oneself more than one thought it could. It's about living out its true identity, even if others don't think it should. So, I would like you to remember this one simple rule about freedom, my dear. If taking others' freedom away is a freedom you would like, you are not free, my sweet soul. Your freedom is locked up real tight.